All right, everyone. Welcome once again to the Faces of Business. I'm your host, Damon Pistolka, and with me today, I have Alex B. Sheridan. Thanks for stopping by, Alex.
Hey, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, awesome. Awesome having you, man, because I tell you, I am so jacked when I see your videos on LinkedIn. You are without a doubt the most creative video guy I see on LinkedIn, and I just love them, and I'm excited to have you here.
Thanks.
So thanks for being here today.
Happy to.
So this show is pretty low key. We don't have near the production value that you do, but we do like to let people talk about themselves a bit so we understand their background. So kind of give me a little bit of your history and really where did you start out and what really got you into video?
Yeah. So I was working for a multi-billion-dollar staffing firm for 6 years. And I always had this kind of voice inside my head telling me I wanted to do something else. I wanted to impact more people. I wanted to start my own business. I wanted to, use some of the creativity that I thought I always had that I felt like was literally just sitting inside me doing absolutely nothing. It's almost like if you think about, you think about your potential the same way. It's just sitting in there. It's like something that you literally could cash out on, but you just got it sitting there doing nothing for you. And so it's almost like making your money work for you. It's the same thing, working with your potential and your creativity. So anyways, I'm working in this company, and I decided in 2019 that I'm like, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to take the leap of faith, and I'm going to start my own business on the side, of course, right? Because I'm working a nice 6-figure job. I'm hitting contests. I'm getting bonus money. I'm doing all right. And so I said, I'm going to start this company. And I'd always done sales, and I had trained other people on how to sell our staffing services. And I figured, well, I'll get into sales consulting, and I'll start teaching other companies, small and mid-sized companies who don't have formal trainings and processes, and they really don't understand sometimes as much as where I came from, where I had a system in place, and we did it well. And so that was my strategy. That was the game plan. That's what I started off doing. And then what happened very quickly, I started posting content on LinkedIn. Late 2019, I had 0 followers, and I just started posting content. I started creating videos, and I said, you know what? I'm going to go for this. I'm going to create some content that's different than what I see on LinkedIn. I'm going to use some humor. I'm going to use my personality. I'm going to be myself. Like, I'm going to be my, I'm not going to hold back. I'm not going to get on there and be like, okay, today's tip of the day is, like I was just going to be myself. And I wasn't sure how people were going to receive it. I didn't know if they were going to like it, not like it, but I figured it was me. And I felt like maybe LinkedIn needed a little bit more of that. And so I got on there, started creating content. And again, keep in mind, I'm still going the sales consultant route, right? Sales training, sales consulting. And so I get on there, I post the videos. What I quickly noticed was that because of the videos I was posting, that they were a little bit more creative, and they were not good videos, to be honest. But I think for the time, there wasn't many people doing that type of stuff, So I was kind of like one of the pioneers of like the creative green screen and all that stuff. And so it was nothing of what I would do today, but they were okay. They were decent, but people were coming to me and they'd say, Alex, how are you making these videos? And it looks like you're having some success on LinkedIn. We haven't quite figured out LinkedIn. We'd love to learn from you. And a light bulb went off, and I was like, man, I bet there's an entire business around this. And I thought to myself, again, this is late 2019. I thought to myself, I was like, I think that we're probably going to go heavy video and virtual and digital. And I'm like, I see social selling becoming way more relevant. I think LinkedIn's going to be one of those platforms that really takes off in the next couple of years. I had all these thoughts. They were just complete hunches. Like I had no facts to back it up. It was just my intuition. And so I said, all right, January 2020, I hadn't really done anything in that business yet, right? It was just like the marketing and figuring things out and posting content. I wasn't like winning clients. So January 2020, I decided, all right, I'm going to pivot. I'm going to make this change. I'm going to go all in on content, video marketing, social selling, LinkedIn specifically. February 2020, I win my first client. So a month later, I win my first client. 6 months later, COVID happens obviously in March. So that just expedited everything that I thought was going to happen by like 10 years, right? Because overnight we all had to go like digital and video and that kind of social selling. And so 6 months later, July 2020, I was making more money than I was at my corporate job, my corporate 6-figure job. And I put in my notice and I went all in on this company, July 2020, and been doing it ever since.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
Well, you said a few things. So you look back at your old videos and you say, well, they were kind of okay. So what do you mean by that? I mean, your old videos, I've been gone back and looked through them, and yeah, they're different, and you've obviously stepped it up a bit. But when you look back at them, what do you think?
Well, you got to go back a little ways, right? So like if you go back, years, maybe even past that, which is hard to do in LinkedIn because it's not like Instagram or other platforms where you can scroll through a ton of videos at one time. You got to go through every single post. So it's kind of like, it takes a little bit of time to get there. But they were so bad. I mean, I was the mistakes that I made so people can kind of learn from them was, I talked for 4 to 5 minutes and just kind of was all over the place, didn't have a very clear message. I wasn't as focused in on my target audience and being very lasered in on the value that I wanted to deliver them. I wasn't always catching attention in the first 3 to 5 seconds like I know how to do now. My editing was not good. I didn't even know that you could outsource editing and you could hire somebody to do really amazing edits for very affordable. I didn't even realize that like changed my world when I figured that out. And so just a lot of the common mistakes that people make in the beginning. Yeah,
that's cool. Well, I forgot to, as we get in, I'm only done like 50 of these, so I should be better than I am. But I forgot to say is what our topic of the day is: how to use LinkedIn video to win clients and build your brand. Because that's what you're doing on LinkedIn now, is you're helping clients do that on LinkedIn through video and really showcasing their brand. And I jumped right into the creative side of what you do, because I think it's unique. What you do is unique, and the way you present yourself, I can only imagine that it's helping your clients a lot. But I wanted to get back and do that. And you're right. There are these things that you have to do initially in a video, especially when you're trying to build your brand and you're trying to capture someone's attention in that 3-minute kind of video time frame that you're making. You really have to understand how to hit that impact right away, to get people to listen to your overall message and keep it visually stimulating to stay in there.
Absolutely.
So take me back a little bit here. So you grew up in the Chicago area there?
No, I actually grew up downstate in a small town right south of Springfield, Illinois, which is the state's capital. A lot of people think it's Chicago, but it's not. So I grew up in a small town that was right next to Springfield. So it was, maybe 200-something thousand people in Springfield. I mean, mom and dad lived in the same household. My brother, I had an older brother in the Air Force. He's been there ever since he was 18, did our ROTC program. And we grew up down there. And then it wasn't until after college that I came up here, really just for the opportunity, because there's not much opportunity down there unless you're going to get into maybe the political game or the police, state police, that kind of stuff. There's not a ton of business type opportunity. And I wanted to go, I didn't want to be as they say, like a big fish in a small pond. I wanted to go to a big pond and see what it was like to play with the big boys and girls and learn some things and get exposure to, better competition and that kind of stuff. So that led me up here.
Well, and Chicago is that. I mean, growing up in the Midwest where I did in a small town. I mean, when I say small, I grew up in South Dakota small. So that's several hundred people.
That's a whole small.
That's exponentially smaller than when you grew up. But Chicago, it is really, in Minneapolis some too, but Chicago really is a business hub in the Midwest. I mean, it's one of the hubs in the Midwest, and there are so many more opportunities, I think, there, whether it's industrial, whether it's financial. There's just a lot of different things that go on there. And I think it's an exciting place to be, not only because the Bears is my first favorite football team ever, but that is a nice place. I mean, it's a nice
they when I was in the staffing world, Chicago had the most competitive job market and staffing market in the country in terms of just the amount of recruiters and staffing agencies and people, the competition that you had. It was like there was someone literally like, every block that you went, there was a new firm and there were new ones popping up. And so you just constantly had to learn how to beat your competitors and how to stay ahead of them. So
yeah, it's good stuff. So in Chicago, what somebody's coming into the city, what do they want to do?
Well, I'm out in St. Charles, so I'm not in the city. So I'm not the greatest like city tour person. But I mean, some of the cool things to do if you're into sports would obviously be catch like a Cubs game, a Bears game, The Shed Aquarium's amazing. We've got some pretty cool science museums. And if it's summertime, you know, you're doing the boat cruises along the river walk type stuff.
Yeah.
It's a really cool, there's so many festivals and music events and that kind of stuff. And then if you're just downtown, I mean, the Mag Mile, which is the Magnificent Mile, which is kind of, you know what that is. It's the main strip on like the kind of the heart of the city where the shopping and retail center is. I mean, that's really a cool place to go. And if you're into shopping and spending a ton of money, you can definitely do it there. But yeah, there's quite a bit to do there.
Yeah, I don't know about the shopping part of it. I used to do a lot of trade shows. You know, that's a trade show. You know, like Vegas is a trade show capital. When you look in the old businesses I was in retail and manufacturing, a McCormick place there and stuff was a lot of fun. When you get those kind of things going, and that whole Mag Mile goes crazy when you have those big shows in town. So it is a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun. So when we get back to business here, now we're talking COVID hits. You know, you start just starting your business and COVID hits. And did you get a lot of calls from people that were just like, you know, white knuckle, beaded sweat up, or, you know, sweating to death, going, what in the hell are we going to do now? Just trying to help us. How am I going to be? So what there was overall, what did you hear? What are some of the things that you were seeing that kind of repeated itself over and over during that time when they realized that, man, my sales force is grounded. I got to figure something else out.
Yeah. And there's a lot of people, you know, what I saw was a lot of people who had really relied almost 100% on in-person events, whether it was trade shows, whether it was they flew out and did, you know, workshops or consulting events or trainings, whether it was speaking engagements. So I attracted a lot of people really quickly, you know, pretty much as soon as COVID happened, where people would reach out and say, hey, I see you're making videos on LinkedIn. It seems like you know what you're doing, which at the time I wasn't like an expert. I wouldn't have called myself an expert at the time, but I knew more than maybe, you know, some people have never done it before. So I was happy to help, but they reached out and they were like, Alex, our business, or if it's a solopreneur, my business has gone from, you know, X amount to zero basically overnight. Yeah. Like literally overnight, their entire business is upside down now because everyone canceled everything. And we weren't even sure when that was going to come back. And the more deep we got into it, as you remember, at first it was kind of like, all right, a few weeks, maybe it's going to be a little rough for a while. And then it was like, okay, this thing is going to be a while. Take a seat. Yeah. And so I think that's when it clicked for people, like really summertime, when people are like, man, if we don't get on LinkedIn, and we don't start building a digital brand, and we don't start putting out videos, and we don't start understanding how to social sell, how to engage our customers and meet them where they're at, which they're all, for the most part, to some extent, are on LinkedIn. And you can reach these folks after hours. You can reach them on the weekends. You can reach them anytime you're posting. And so it really opened the door for a whole new way to reach clients and engage with them and really build a brand so that the customers come to you. So I think what's really changed in sales nowadays is the community is becoming the new pipeline. So if you think about, you know, old days, you have the CRM and you have, you know, Excel sheet or whatever it is, and you put names in there or companies in there, and that's your pipeline. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think there's still a place for that 100%. But what you also have to think about is how do you start creating a community around that group where you're providing value to them? And so there's a ton of different ways that you can do it. But part of it is by putting out content, by creating useful and valuable information for these people to consume every single day, every single week, newsletters, LinkedIn groups, Facebook groups. You know, there's a million different ways to do it. But how do you create a community around that group so that you're always top of mind? You're continuously providing value to them. And when they're ready to purchase, you don't even got to track them down. They just hit you up and say, hey, I've been following you for the last 2 months. I've caught every video you put out. I want to work with you. Now's the time. 2 months ago, I had some things going on, but we're ready. Yeah. And that's it.
Yeah. Well, you brought up a couple things here that I want to ask you some questions on. Once the first one you talked about was social selling, and I think that's something that people say a lot, but they really don't understand what that means. So I would like you to kind of explain what's your take on social selling is.
Yeah, there's a ton of like different avenues that you could go down. I think if you're working with big clients, like, let's say you're trying to get the attention of like Apple or Microsoft or LinkedIn or Salesforce, or you're working with those bigger enterprise type companies. That's where I think a lot of the creative, I think you got to do it. You definitely have to do a ton of research, right? Because you're trying to meet these people and you need to understand their problems and what they're trying to solve and what they're going through. You can't just blindly cold call them. It's not going to be super effective. But if you can learn all that information, and you can put together creative videos, or you can put together something to get the attention of them, which by the way, would also get the attention of your competitors, their competitors and your other clients. So, you know, putting out, let's say I'm targeting Salesforce, right?
Yep.
I put out a video that's super creative. It's well done. And it's targeting Salesforce, but it's talking about how I can help them solve their problem. Maybe let's just stay on LinkedIn for a second. Maybe I put together some creative video where it talks about, hey, I've seen your Salesforce folks. It seems like there's an opportunity to help train them on LinkedIn. What if, hey, imagine 100 of your reps are all out there building their personal brand, creating content, social selling, generating meetings, actual qualified meetings with decision makers every single week. And then I do the math, right? And then I go, it just kind of like skyrockets up. I got a cool little presentation where it's like millions of dollars in extra revenue. Hey, I want to come work with you. Will you give me 5 minutes, 10 minutes to show you what I'm all about? Well, that video, if it's well done and creative, as you know, it's going to get attention. So if I tag some Salesforce people in there and I bring them to the conversation, and maybe I definitely would have some conversations beforehand, right? To draw some, to get some exposure around it. They all see it, which would probably land me a meeting with Salesforce to some level if enough people saw it. But also other companies are going to see it and they're going to say, man, if that's what Salesforce is probably going to do, then why doesn't our company do it? Because we only maybe have 10 or 20 reps, but if our 10 or 20 reps started doing all this, that's a lot of extra revenue and exposure for our brand. So that's kind of one angle. But the angle that I'm mostly working with folks on and companies with, and even solopreneurs, is using things like Sales Navigator, where, you know, you're not going to pick up the phone and cold call or send a cold email anymore. It's not as effective. But what you can do is you target very specific people in Sales Navigator, which is an extension of LinkedIn. It's a paid platform that they provide. It's like $79 a month. It's nothing crazy. It's something crazy. And if you know how to use it, you're getting way more than that return on investment. But what you do is you hyper-targeted people. You find them. You find people that are posting content on LinkedIn in the last 30 days. You can search based on that. And then what you're doing is you're going in and engaging with the post that they create. And so then what you're doing is warming up a conversation. You post something, I'm targeting you, Damon, and I'm like, you post something on 3 ways on how to close a deal better. I see it, I search, so I'm going through my lead list. I can build lead list on there, almost like a mini CRM. It's really cool. Yep. And so every time you post, I can now see it, right? I can track you. And so I go on your post and I'm like, Damon, amazing. You know, I found that, hey, all three ways really work well for closing. I've actually added this and found it super effective too. Have you tried this? I start a mini conversation, or I don't, but either way, then when I send that connection request, it's personalized and I can say, Damon, would love to be connected with you. Just caught your post on 3 ways to close a deal more effectively. Man, that was awesome stuff. I'd love to see more content like yours. Hopefully you catch mine. Happy to connect with you. Then when they accept the connection request, then I can go into my direct messaging. I can use video DMs. I can, again, personally reach out. And I know there might be some people listening to be like, that seems like a lot of work. But here's the thing. When you build a process and a system around it, and you've repeated this many, many times, it's just like anything. I can go through 10 of those sequences, 15 of those sequences in 20, 30 minutes because I've got a process down, right? And it's all set up and I've got the templates in place. So it's not as much work as people think, but it's so incredibly effective. And in an age when everyone's getting automated stuff and they're getting spammed and they're getting these generic messages that they just don't really work super well. When you're the one of a few people that are actually sending personalized messages that are specific to that potential customer, that's how you win. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good way to explain it too, because the social selling really brings the personal element into the sales process.
It's the same way if you're think about cold calling a company. If you cold called a company and just said, hey, I'm Alex, I work for Impacts Marketing. We help companies just like you generate more revenue on LinkedIn and, enable their teams to social sell, build brand, all that stuff. Maybe they take my call, maybe they take a meeting, maybe they don't. But if I called up and I was like, Damon, hey, I'm specifically reaching out to you, man. I understand that you've hired 3 reps in the past 2 months from checking the report or whatever, Indeed or whatever it is. hey, I'm curious if you've thought about this and this. I've got a couple things I'd love to show you. Either way, you could get some value out of it. It'd be things that you can implement with your team either way. I think you'd find really useful. But who knows? Maybe there's an opportunity for us to partner down the line. Do you have a few minutes to chat about it? So that's kind of the new way to approach it, is like you're doing your research, you're being specific, you're personalizing, it's relevant, and it's providing value before you even walk in the front door. So even if they never use me, I can provide value to them so they'll remember me. And if they are going to use someone like me, I'm going to be the person they go to.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, and I wanted to share too, people, if you're listening on LinkedIn, I forgot to say this at the beginning, like I usually do, let us know where you're listening from. And if you got any questions for us today to ask Alex, that'd be great too. Just go ahead and drop them in the comments on LinkedIn or Facebook or wherever you're listening, and we'll do that as well. But you come back to this a couple key points here that we drive home all the time when we're working with people. You got to have a sales process. You got your process has to, it's like, okay, informal, formal, whatever you want to call it. You have to have steps in your process. You should follow those steps. You should have them set up, so they get repeated regularly. And the more formal you can make it, at least if my sales process that's formal sucks, we can change it. We know everybody's doing it, and then just change it and keep working on it. But if you do it one way this way, one way that way, you get that kind of results too, I believe. But
well, the number one reason that people don't generate actual revenue in business on LinkedIn from an outbound standpoint, I'm not just put the content stuff aside, the marketing stuff aside, from a sales perspective, social selling perspective, is the number one reason is because one, they just try to automate it and not really put time into it. Or two, they don't have a process. They don't have a system. So they're not, I go, how are you working your social selling? Walk me through what you're doing. And they're like, well, I kind of send a message here or send a message there. And that's just not going to cut it. Right. So you need dedicated time to do those activities. And when you do them, you got to know how to do them, and you got to know how to do them effectively. And you got to know how to make sure that it's not taking up all of your day either, because you don't want to spend all day on LinkedIn. I can't spend all day on LinkedIn either. And a lot of my business is coming through there. But you've got a business to run. You've got clients to take care of. You maybe got a team to manage. So it's about doing, not doing a ton more, but just making what you're doing really effective. Yeah.
I think that's ultra important, is being effective with your time and getting that process to be effective. Because I can still remember the first time I received a personalized video, and it was like 5 years ago, and that was before anybody did it. And I was like, whoa, how the heck, what was going on? Oh, this was a video guy that sent it. And those things stick out. And I do a clubhouse room few days a week with Ricky O'Donnell. He's a creative guy out of the UK, and he talks about that personal video message with a phone, drops it into a message to a potential client. And he works with big clients, and he said it's effective. He said you wouldn't believe how many people respond, and you can get meetings. You can talk to them and do what you want to do just by taking that time to research and do, like you're saying, a personal video message.
Well, this, I mean, that it's so effective. I mean, just like you said, when you get those messages, it's like, wow, you hardly ever see it. So for that perspective alone, even if you didn't say the right thing, your approach is so unique and innovative that it stands out, and it helps you build your brand, because people take you more seriously. They respect you more because you're coming at them from a personal approach. But, companies, founders, employees, everyone has to start to evolve right now if you're not already. I mean, the digital age is here, and it's not going away. And, if you look at the history of all businesses, the ones that didn't survive, didn't adapt and evolve when things started changing. They stayed the exact same. And they just said, you know what, we've always done it this way, and this is what we're going to do, and it's not going to change. And then one day, what you're doing before is not enough anymore. And pretty soon your competitors are just years ahead of you. And now you're trying to catch up, and sometimes it's too late. So I think companies really got to understand that, that this is not something to play around with. This is not something that you want to take lightly. That you need to build a brand. You need to understand how to navigate these waters on social media, specifically LinkedIn, if you want to be a business of the future.
Yeah. Now, I got a question for you. Do you think that this is pretty much universal? I mean, for across businesses in general. So if I know there's some that yes, you have to, but you look at some of them, you go, okay, I am a HVAC company in your neighborhood. I've got 10 employees, kind of thing. Do you think that I need to be on Facebook because I'm there? I should be on LinkedIn because I'm in commercial too, or what are your thoughts on a company like that?
Well, you got to look at a couple of things. I mean, one, where are your customers at? Right.
Yeah.
So if none of them are on TikTok and you're trying to get on TikTok and make TikTok videos, it ain't going to make a ton of sense. Right.
Yeah.
So are they on LinkedIn? Now I have a bunch of people that tell me like, I don't think our customers, hey, Bonnie, she just said hi.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of people that'll tell me, oh, I don't think our customers are on LinkedIn. And I'm like, really? Well, how many searches have you done and what have you done it on and that kind of stuff? And I always love pulling up, thanks, Bonnie, you're the best. I always love pulling up Sales Navigator, and I'll show them, really, you didn't think that executive was on LinkedIn. You didn't think this group of people were on LinkedIn. Let me show you 243 people just like them with the same job title, same years of experience that have all posted on LinkedIn in the last 30 days.
Yeah.
So you got to think about where your customer is. Now, if your customer is heavy on Facebook and you can create Facebook groups or a community, a local community type feel on there, then that's fine to do. And you probably want to run some Facebook ads and they're reasonably priced and that kind of stuff. So maybe not your number one focus or 100% of your attention is on LinkedIn. It may be 60% or 70% Facebook, but then still posting content to LinkedIn and building a brand and having your profile optimized and doing something on there, because it is a platform that's going to be around for a long time and it's business focused. The other thing that's unique about LinkedIn right now, as we speak, March 2021, it won't always be this way, but there's a ton of organic reach on LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. So, and it's not like TikTok where it's going to be like, you post one video one day, gets a couple thousand, and the next day it could be 100,000 views. It's not like LinkedIn's not like that. It's more stable, right? You kind of know where you're going to be at. And I sort of like that. It's a little bit more predictable. But in terms of somebody getting on, if you're listening and you got like no following and you just have never made a piece of content on LinkedIn or anywhere, you could get on here today and make some noise in 3 to 6 months. Like, I don't think people understand that. You got to put in the work and you got to, learn the skills and beat on the craft, but you could do it. I started in late 2019 with 0 followers. So, I mean, and so it's just, and I grew all organically to over 15,000 followers in a little over a year. So it's definitely possible. It's definitely doable. You don't need to become a social media star or a celebrity. That's not what it's about. It's about creating enough content where you're building brand, your profile is optimized, people land on it, they take action, not action like leaving your profile, but action like reaching out to you. Yeah. And then you know how to navigate through those social selling channels.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good advice there. Good advice. Well, of course, Bonnie's going to bring up TikTok.
I know, that's why I said that. I know.
Yeah, I know. When you said TikTok,
she's the queen. She's the queen at TikTok.
I was just talking to her this morning or earlier today, and she said like they're up to like 19 million views or something.
It's insane.
It's insane.
Bonnie, if you're listening real quick, Bonnie, this is interesting for TikTok. So I've been posting, and I don't have a strategy. I'm not super focused on there. My focus is on, yes, that's it. That's it. Right there. So most of my videos were getting like, a couple hundred views. And then all of a sudden I had one that spiked up to like, I think I got almost 20,000 views, which is just like crazy, and over 1,000 reactions and stuff. But I always tell people, I'm like, look, it depends on your business. It depends on your audience. For Bonnie, like TikTok is all day, every day because of what they do. Like it just makes total sense. Right. But she's still on LinkedIn. Right. She's still creating a brand and putting out content on LinkedIn, which is smart. But you also don't want to do too many different things. Like if you're a business owner and you're trying to be like, I'm going to be on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, and you end up creating like very little, or you just post the same thing to each one with no context, and you're not really building a community, and you end up going super wide, but because you have no depth, you actually don't get results. Yeah. And that's what I help people do, is get actual results. Business one. The likes and comments and stuff are great, but if it's not translating to actual revenue, then there's something missing.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. And I think a lot of people do that, and it's tempting. I mean, honestly, we do recycle content on our company pages. But we generate a lot of content. I mean, when you look at us, we're putting up 4 to 6 new blog posts every week with videos and everything. So we got a lot of content we can circle through on our pages now. And some of it engages with people and some of it doesn't. And the thing that I was really surprised about when I got active on LinkedIn, probably about the same time, it was late in 2019 sometime, I started coming back and getting active and creating content and doing those things, is that if you show up like you're talking about, you will have clients call you, or potential clients call you, and they act like they know you.
Oh yeah.
It is scary. It is scary as hell. And you gotta kind of get yourself ready for that, because they'll call you up and it's just as you were talking about, you know, they've taken the time, they've got to know you and maybe even like you to a point. So you're much farther down the sales process before. So
that's exactly right. That's such a great point. And that's what it's about.
Yeah. Bonnie's giving me a bad time. She goes, "How many shows do you have?" And she was asking me that today. But and I'd like to do another one, because I'm excited about a different show idea that I want to do. But it allows people to get farther down the sales process, because you know, they don't want to come and see you unless they think you're going to help. You know, you don't want to have a salesperson talking to you and just to find out, hey, it's another not a useless meeting, because a human interaction is great, but in business terms, it was not valuable. And that people just don't have time for anymore. And them to digest the content at their schedule and their timing is so nice. And you go, well, why do you have to produce content every day? You have to produce content every day because otherwise, if their time is when you're not producing content, they're not going to see you.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say every day, but I would say consistently, right?
Consistently, there you go.
If that's, you know, 3 times a week or 4 times a week, and that works for you, then that's good. If you can post good content every day, that's obviously ideal. But yeah, I mean, to your point, it's such a great point. You show up way earlier than potentially that customer is even thinking about purchasing something like you offer. So that's the power in it, where it's like, think of just old school sales. It's like, if you're only going to get in front of people when you book a meeting with them and you're going to talk business, hey, what are your pain points? What are your needs? What are you trying to accomplish? And then is there a fit or is there not a fit? I can do some of that from a social selling standpoint, but from the content standpoint, I can reach somebody that maybe in 3 months is ready to like really bring me in and do some company training for LinkedIn. But it's not in budget right now, or maybe they're not having conversations right now, but they've seen my videos the past 3 months. Well, who do you think they're who do you think they're going to call when they're ready to pull the trigger? And they've seen 50 of my videos and they literally feel like they know me, to your point. Yeah. People get on there. And then when you post video content specifically, it allows people to get to know, like, and trust you before you ever meet with them. I mean, I'll have people literally, because my calendar link is on if you go to my website, I have a quick video on the front page. And then I offer to, schedule a quick 30-minute call where I'm going to provide value either way. Right. Yeah. And we can see if it's a good fit. Well, if people literally watch my videos, they don't comment, they don't like it. We call those folks lurkers, as you probably know. But what they'll do is they'll go to my page. It's super optimized. I've got testimonials on there, so people know exactly what I do. The results are proven. But then they'll go to my website and they'll book a call. And I got a call on my calendar where I'm like, this happens all the time. I'll get on the Zoom call and I'll try and do my research where I can, but I'm like, I've never interacted with this person before. And I'm like, Paul, correct me if I'm wrong. I did my research and I know what you do, but have we interacted ever before? And they're like, nope. I've just seen about 7 of your videos now and booked a call with you. And I want to work with you. So it's just awesome. I mean, isn't that every salesperson's dream, is that, you don't always have to hunt the business down. It comes to you and they're already qualified and they're already ready to buy. Yeah. Yeah, we were having a team meeting this morning. I know yesterday, the days rolling together, but we were having a team meeting and we were talking about working on one of our products, because we had always been custom solutions for a little bit bigger businesses, right? And we've since released or in the process of releasing a product meant to the smaller solopreneur, entrepreneur with a few employees kind of businesses. And we've been refining it over the last few months. And I said, how when you get a good product is when someone asks you, how much does it cost?
Because if you're talking to someone about it, you don't bring up price, you don't bring up price,
Yes.
price, and you're just talking about what would make this better, how would this work, and we've done this. And when people start going, how much does it cost? You go, we might be getting close.
Oh, 100%.
Like you,
those are
like
the magic
you said,
words.
Yeah, it is. But it's interesting how you're doing the same thing almost with video. You're showing them enough about you, about how you help them, how it can solve the problems they're looking at, that without really doing much more, they're going to not, and that's a lot, don't get me wrong. They're going to book that call with you, and they are going to be ready for you to help them with the solution, because they've made a decision in their mind that you can help them and you are the right one.
Exactly. 100%, man.
Yeah.
It's so obvious. Cool. And it's just cool. Yeah, it's so crazy. It's, I'm blown away every day that there's so many companies that haven't caught on to that. Cause it's almost like when you're living it every day, you almost feel like you have you have this secret that like the world just doesn't know about. And you're like, man, at some point people are going to catch on to this and figure it out. And I think this is the year, based on my business, that I think people are starting to make the shift, but there's still so many companies and people and founders that they just haven't caught on to, and they're blown away when they start doing it. And they're just like, my gosh, what have I been doing this whole time?
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah. So now, do you think that your solutions, the stuff that you're working with, does it work better if I'm targeting larger companies, or, when I say larger, like, Fortune 500 companies, or smaller companies, say sub 100 million kind of companies?
Both. It's a little bit of it could be a little bit of a different strategy with the bigger companies, depending on who you're reaching out to. That's where there needs to be more research, more context, and there needs to be probably some creative video elements to it where you get their attention from the content. If you're working with solopreneurs, founders, small business owners, you probably could sometimes as simple as putting out really good content, your profile is optimized, and then you work those social selling strategies, and you can reach out, and through 1 or 2 engagements, you can book a call and figure out if there's the right fit. But the power of the power of content, it's almost like interest, like it just compounds over time. So, think about what you're doing now and add 3 months to it, add 6 months to it, add 12 months to it. Pretty soon you're going to get to a certain point, if you do it consistently, where you almost are in a position where you are turning down certain clients because maybe you're like, hey, this isn't the right, I'm priced certain people out of the products or services.
Yeah.
And so, it could be demand so high. So, and there's only a certain supply of you or your team. And so it's a good problem to have.
Or it's a wrong fit. That's
for sure.
That's the other thing. But I think it's I noticed that about 4 months ago, and it's just funny as heck, because I had somebody that come in that was wondering, what's your experience? And I said, okay, I can sit here and talk as long as you want to talk about this, but here you go. Here's 4 videos on YouTube. I sent them the links to them. I said, here, I talk with people that we work with every day on this subject. See if you like what I say, what we talk about, how we help people, and go from there. And again, the content just helps so much.
Yeah.
So much.
What's becoming really big too, I'm sure you've seen it as well, is the social proof, is the clients. People now want to hear from your clients. They want to see videos and testimonials, and they want to hear, Shelly, who's like, oh my gosh, I started working with Damon, and we got these amazing results, and we leveled up our business, 20%, 30% revenue increase. When people hear that stuff, it's extremely powerful. And now they're not hearing it from you. They're hearing it from someone that worked with you. And so the whole social proof and video testimonials, and that whole, like, you could almost have a business just helping people do that, because it's really quite large.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure. Good stuff. So I got another question then. So we talked about big companies, small companies. So some people, like, at a client in 19 and 20, they would do oil field services work. So their clients were the big clients. And I bring this up not because they're client size, but because of the ticket size. They would do their ticket size. If they did a small project with a client, it was $500,000. If they did, a big client is $10 million with them a year or something like that in revenue. So do you think that think of a manufacturing client is what I think of, because typically manufacturing clients have multi-million-dollar clients all day long, right? Or at least $500,000 and bigger is not huge in manufacturing, just because of what you're dealing with. So do you think that's more important for someone like that to really be using social selling? Because that's traditionally, that's the face-to-face deal right there when we're talking the manufacturing. What do you think about that kind of setting for this approach?
No, I think there's enough people on LinkedIn these days where that still can be very and is very effective. I think the bigger the deals get in my mind, the more I would spend on each outreach, right?
Yeah.
So for example, if you're reaching out to founders and solopreneurs and it's low friction, there's one-to-one, there's not a ton of decision makers, influencers, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Then it's faster and there's less research, less context, because it's just, you got to go through the people, right? Still personalized, but it's a different approach. Where if you've got a client that's 500,000 or 10 million, that's worth doing a lot of research and spending time, and maybe even creating a custom video just for them and their team. Yeah. And you don't just need to post, because someone's like, well, what if they're not on LinkedIn? It's like, well, when you create a piece of content, that's an asset. So you can put that on your website. You can put that on a video email. You can use a software system like Dub, where you can send out video emails with your own email address. And you can have that. Imagine that. Like, think about that manufacturing manager, or whoever you're targeting, the VP of manufacturing or whatever it is, VP of sales, whatever it is. And they get an email, and they're used to getting cold called, blasted with emails all day. And then all of a sudden they get a video from this guy or gal who is specifically addressing problems or challenges that they probably have based on their research. And they're doing it in a creative way. And they're providing some type of value or solution, and then they're asking for a meeting. That's a game changer for these folks. So they got to get a little bit creative with their approach. But even if people aren't on LinkedIn, there's still a ton of opportunity to use content in that sort of social selling approach to still make it work.
Yeah. Well, we had Rodney Canada stop by. Rodney does sales, and Rodney does sales in manufacturing, like I was talking about. And I think that you make a great point here, is that there's two things. Now, I've got a bit more gray hair than you, if people haven't noticed that. But, in my day, it was all face-to-face, right? We didn't even have the internet when I was young. But now what I've been preaching for a long time, I mean, over 10 years already, and I'm kind of getting tired of it, but it's starting to come around, is that the whole buying base now, when you look in any company, anyone that are in positions of authority, and I'm not talking about a mid-level manager, I'm talking about executives in the C-suite all the way down, they probably grew up with Google. They're so used to searching for products online and everything like that, is that the one-on-one 100% approach to selling has been dying over the last 10 years, and it's just been dying at a slow pace. And that's never going away completely, right? Because there's always a piece, and that's a great piece. That's awesome, making those relationships. But as we talked about, people get farther down that buying process by being able to read your content, digest your content, however it is, to be able to find the solutions they believe first, as you would a Google type setting, before they reach out or want somebody to contact them. And I can't emphasize that enough. And I love hearing what you're saying, especially for manufacturers, because it is so critical that I think that they incorporate these and the other kind of companies we talk about, not just them, but these kind of approaches, because, man, you're missing out on an entire population of people that do not want you calling them, that will just get pissed. It doesn't matter if you're the perfect person. If you try to call them, you try to email them, whatever, cold, it ain't happening.
Yeah, 100%, man. And it could be as simple as if you signed up for Dub, let's just say, I don't like work for Dub, but I'm just, they're a good product or service that I use, and I know the owners. If you signed up, it's like 40 something bucks. I mean, it's very affordable, and it allows you to send videos via email from your own email address. So even the difference maker of just a 30-second video of you standing there saying, Rod, hey, I did some research on your company. Like, I understand this, and this. Would love to have a quick chat. I've uncovered some things that I think could tremendously help your team based on this, and this. Let me know if you're up for a quick chat. You know, something very simple that they're like, whoa, I've never gotten a video like that. That was personalized, that had context to it, that they did research to it. Like that is a game changer. And it's very simple. You don't need any crazy technology. You know, Ronnie talked about building, we build personal relationships. That's one thing that's not going to go away in sales, right? You're going to always need relationships, but how do you start to build relationships? You need attention. You need them to sit down with you in the first place, because you can't just say, I'm going to build a relationship with you. They're not sitting around waiting for somebody to come build a relationship with them, but they do want they value relationships, but you got to get attention and get in front of them to then build the relationship. So this is kind of like how you bridge that gap. But absolutely, once you get in front of them, you still got to build relationships with people, and you got to leverage that. No doubt about it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's awesome. That's awesome. But yeah, it makes such a difference, I think, if you're reaching out with value and show somebody that context that you've thought about their situation, and maybe that you could potentially help. Because so many, as you I'm sure get, you get an email that talks to you about, oh hell, I get, just pick something, and I get an email from somebody trying to sell me that I need to develop a new app. You need help with your Python programming. Well, I don't even know. I know what Python is.
It's so terrible, man. I like literally look for the block button. I'm like, dude, this is because there's no context. There's no personalization. So it's like I'll get emails, and I'm a one-person company for now. I outsource. I have a couple people that do editing for me, but for the most part, I'm a one-person show for the time being. And they'll be like, for your next 2 hires, we can help you hire and I'm like, where did like, it's just so, versus the person that approached me personally and be like, hey man, they send me a video or a message or something. It's like, I've been following your post on LinkedIn. I see that you just started your company in 2020. Like that would get my attention. Those are the things that I'm like, wow, this is pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and Bonnie said to go on frozen pitches. That's awesome.
That's right.
So we've been going on, and man, I'm excited. I get jacked up about this because you got me so much good stuff to share. But what should have I asked you that I didn't ask you?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, there's probably 4 trillion things that we could cover in terms of just content creation and that kind of stuff. But I feel like we had a really good conversation, and hopefully brought some value to the audience. I would definitely love to take some questions from anybody that's in the comments. But good conversation. I appreciate it.
Man, it is, and I know Rodney's probably driving. He listens to us in the car when he's going, but it is. It is. I love getting your opinion. I mean, because you are, as I said when we started this thing, you are probably one of the most creative video people I see on LinkedIn. I really appreciate your content and your candor and your thought process. I mean, when you mentioned your sales process and other things like that, you don't mention it much, but you've got a solid sales background, and staffing is a tough industry to be selling in, and to be successful in it it's no small feat. So, Bonnie's got one up. She said, what are you up to next? Or what's the next big idea for Alex?
Oh, I got some, actually dentist today. Rodney says, nice. Thanks for tuning in, brother. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Bonnie, I got some really cool videos coming out over the next several weeks. I've decided to take the creativity and then push myself to the next level as much as I can, because I believe in that, stretching your comfort zone. And so there's gonna be some good ones coming. I can't spoil anything, but there'll be some good ones coming every Monday.
Nice. Well, that's awesome to have you here today, Alex, and thank you so much for stopping by.
Thank you.
Sharing your wisdom, dude. I tell you what, if anybody wants to reach out to you, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
LinkedIn's great. I'm always on LinkedIn. Send me a message on there, or email asheridan@impacts.com, or you can visit my website, impacts.com.
Nice. So everyone's got that. We'll put it in the comments on the videos as well, on the blog page. So Bonnie wants to know if you're signing with a music label.
No plans of that.
All right.
I do love creating music.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, well, good stuff. Well, maybe we'll have you back and we'll talk about that the next time, because good stuff. Well, thanks, Alex, so much. Thanks everyone for listening once again to the Faces of Business with me, Damon Pistolka, and our sponsor, Eggs Your Way. Love it, Alex. Thanks so much.
Thank you, guys.